Hey there, it's Sean from London Pen Company, and I've got another interview segment, this time with the one and only Jonathon Brooks. Hi,
Hey, how's it
Jonathan, how are
going?
you?
Good, good. Happy to be here.
Great. I appreciate you taking the time. This is during the holidays, but it'll probably be released in January, so I do appreciate
Okay.
you taking a bit of time to be with me. Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself? Most people will know who you are, but there are a few people out there that might not know you.
Yeah. So, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Jonathon Brooks. I own and operate Carolina Pen Company. I've been around since 2009 and have been doing this as a full time job pretty much ever since.
So you have a couple of lines of business, but the pens did come first.
Yes. Well, yes and no. I guess in a way, the material side kind of came as a job first, and the pen side was still more of a hobby. But anytime, so I guess I should flip back and say, along with making pens, I'm also well known for pen materials that I make. And when I first got into doing that, the only way I could showcase the material was to make a pen out of it. And even though I wasn't really making pens to sell, I would still have to make them just to see what the material would look like. And so one fed the other, and then it kind of grew into two full-time jobs.
Yeah, yeah. You are a very busy person. So,
Yeah, I do it to myself though. It's fine.
well, one of the materials that you're most well known for is my favorite material. Also, a
Yeah,
material that has probably helped me build my business to where it is. I had gotten a big bunch of this from you right, like timing was perfect, right before COVID. And so
yeah.
for a while, I was the only one with this material. Can you, because I don't even know the history, so this will be news to me. Where did you get the idea for PM1? And well, when did you get the idea, and how did you get the idea? Because to me, it's like the perfect pen material. It's different every time.
It's
There's enough variation, and
yeah. It's definitely the material that A put me on the map, and also B that is, without a doubt stood the test of time. Because so PM1, for those that are new, it stands for primary manipulation version 1. And the reason for it being called primary manipulation is because it's all the colors of the rainbow. I throw a little pink in there just because it's a good accent color, and there's some white in there to balance out all the colors. It's what makes the colors show up in the material. And I'd have to look it up, but I want to say I first created this material almost 14 years ago in 2000, either late 2010 or early 2011. And it was just one of those, let me just throw, well, I should say it started out as an experiment of, can I just use red, yellow, and blue in a material and see if I can get all the colors of the rainbow to show up. And that's how primary manipulation got the name, because it's your primary colors being manipulated. And the short answer is yes, I did get all the colors, but the long answer is it was a muddy mess, and it was much more simplistic to actually make the material more complex. So instead of using 4 colors, I upgraded it to 8 colors. And that actually helped with the color separation and saturation, showcasing all the colors, not just 1 or 2, because in the past, one color, usually green or orange, would take over as dominant, and it would be almost 90% that color with little shades and hints. of the other colors. But now, as you just showed, all the colors showcase somewhat evenly. I do, let's see, adjust things to where those colors that can take over as dominant aren't able to, because I don't add as much into the material. So it's just little hints of those.
Yeah, but I think one of the appeals, especially to the collector, is that you can get one that's red dominant or lavender
Yes.
dominant, purple dominant, yellow. So it's got enough variation in it that people will collect just PM1. I've had people who just collect PM1 pens, and they're going.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to get specific looks. It's a bit of a nightmare for pen makers out there.
A little bit.
They're like, hey, can you make me a PM1 pen just like this? And then they show you, and I'm like, well, I could make 30, and none of them will look like that, or one of them might look that.
I have a client on my commission list currently that we're now into year 3, I believe. And she gets to see the first primary pen or I should say every primary pen that gets made before anybody else, because she has that one she's after. And we, 3 years later, and can't count how many primary manipulation pens have been made, but none have really hit that mark. Some have come close, but just haven't quite been the one. And it's funny because her friend has the one.
Right.
And they know they have the one, and they're never going to let go of the one.
Exactly. Yeah,
So it's
I've
it's
had
a
that.
blessing and a curse.
It is, and I think because most of the people that I know that were collecting it have really rounded out their collections, I think my sales dropped off. But I still, whenever I'm doing a batch of pens, the first thing I do is I grab 4 or 5 PM1. It's still, I think, at the London show, my first sale was a PM1 light. At Toronto, I sold 2 or 3 PMs. DC sold PM. San Francisco sold several PM lights. So they sell for me all the time. Every release I do where there's PMs, a couple of them will go. So it's still the best seller for me. So, which is great.
And for me as well, it's just like I said, it's that material that stood the test of time. I am the sole person that's known for that material. And, it's a wave I'm going to ride until I crash, because I don't see it petering out anytime soon. I'm always making little adjustments here and there. I mean, there's so many different varieties of it.
Yeah. My last.
That's why it's.
Yeah, the last batch I got from you was it wasn't PM1 light, like it wasn't the pastel-y type, but it was certainly brighter. Maybe less of the blues, maybe less of the kind of colors that ran to make brown. So it's quite a bit brighter, and I've had people confuse it with PM1 light, and or the pastel, and it's not, because of those darker colors are in there. But
yeah, it's in there, and it's one of those. I'm learning constantly about color theory, color manipulations. A lot of commercials are out there about how purple cancels out yellow, and you mix red and green, you get brown. You mix purple and orange, you get brown. So, and all of those are in the material, so I have to be really careful in the orientation that the colors get poured into it. And I mean, just a slight tip of the hand, too heavy one way or the other, changes everything. And that, again, that's the beauty and the curse, because you're going to have such a variety no matter what I do.
And we never find out till we make the pen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. People think I cherry pick and keep the best materials. I've thought I would cherry pick before, and then I would see pens made by other makers. I'm like, oh man, I didn't keep those. I kept the other ones from that batch, and mine come out great. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I get envious of other makers and when they get the really, really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you keep sending me the good stuff because I've had some incredible PM1 stuff. And the thing
Oh yeah,
is, the other thing is, the ones where you get some of the browns and the darkers, there's lots of people out there that prefer that. They like the dark stuff because I think you also pour dimension into your pens, which is very unique in how you mix the solids and the clears to get that depth in
right.
your pens. Like it's the only thing that I've seen to kind of rival the acrylics and the cellulose. That it's the only kind of material that I find that has a bit of depth to it, which is pretty darn neat. So
Yeah, back when I first started making it, like a cat's eye marble was kind of the vision I had,
gotcha.
because
Yeah,
you have those solid
you see
ribbons
that
and the
all the time.
translucence,
Yeah, yeah,
and you have that undulation of, it's again, it's the in primary manipulation number one, it's the white that makes it all happen, and it's a very specific white pigment that I use, and it just has these properties where I can kind of control the way it swirls, and you get that undulation where it's, because of that depth, it gives you that color change.
yeah,
The closer the whitest to the surface, the lighter the translucent pigment will be.
yeah.
But, the deeper it is, and it's just a matter of keeping that translucent material the right saturation level. In years past when they were darker, it's because I was a little heavy-handed on the saturation of the pigment.
I tell you, I've dabbled in casting because it's kind of fun to make a mess, and it's amazing. You can put the same amount of blue as you do like a red or an orange, and the blue you can't even see through. Like you have to, you
Yeah,
just have to control it so much to get that translucency. Yellow is easy to be translucent, but I find blue and purple. I've got to the point where I don't even put a drop in. I now put a drop on a stick, and tap a little bit onto the other stick and
yeah.
stir it to get a light blue. It's just so you have to be so specific with it.
You really do, and it varies pigment to pigment. From the sounds of it, that's probably you were probably using the Alumilite dyes because
The
they were so
dyes, yeah,
concentrated.
yeah, yeah,
There are other now the translucent dyes I use for primary it's my one like trade secret that I've never shared with anybody. It's the one thing that I will keep to myself for the foreseeable future, and it's just that this company makes these dyes for me,
yeah.
and
You keep your secret as long as you
yeah,
keep selling us the blanks.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah, I've tried. If you were to try to make a primary manipulation with something super concentrated like the Alumilite dyes, yeah, it would be, dip a toothpick and stir it in there to
Yeah.
get the saturation level light enough, because I've taught people how to cast. I've had people come to the house and learn. I've done demonstrations 10 years ago or more,
I saw you on
where
Fig Boot, I think, doing a demo.
oh yeah, that's the most famous one, is the Figboot video. I still get people who pull me aside at every show to this day and talk about that video still, and that video is over 5 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go into a little bit of my mindset of how you really have to think about casting while you're doing it, because you almost have to. You can't use what you're seeing as your visualization. You have to imagine it once it's been turned down, drilled out, and polished. Because if it's super light in your mixing cup, it's going to be tenfold more translucent as a pen, because the material is going to be between 1 and 3 millimeters thick. Well, anything at that thinness is going to be super transparent.
Yeah.
So
I found that
you
out making my green and yellow dragon eye. I tried a little experiment, and they're pretty much like a little tiny bit of yellow and a little tiny bit of green. They're
yeah,
completely
you really have to. You've got to take that into consideration when you're trying to mix all your colors together, and if you use different brands of pigments together, you have to know how each one reacts. So you know how much saturation to do of each type, and that kind of thing just comes with time and experience and things like that. And you know, thankfully, my experiments usually come out okay.
Well,
At
your
least to where
experience, right? Like as you get better and
yeah,
better and do it more and more, I think your intuition is going to
yes,
really, flush out the blank in your mind, and you're going to have a lot more successes than, say, somebody like me who pours a lot of mud sometimes that
yeah, and then
ends up in the bin.
in taking everything I've said so far into consideration, you still have to get your resin timed out just right. So it's not too thin, it's not too thick. It's the right consistency for swirling or whatever style of blank you want to make. And oh yeah, there's so much to take into consideration when you're, if you just want to make blanks for yourself. Yeah, if you're making blanks for yourself, it's one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heat gun and
but
then
if
mix. It's all like,
yeah,
you got 12 minutes, but you really don't have 12 minutes. You really have that little 2-minute period to get the stuff in the mold and into the pressure
right,
pot, right? Because it has to be the right temperature.
Yeah, so for me, I am done mixing my A and B by about 2.5 minute mark.
Yeah.
Now that's enough for me to make 12 blanks at a time. And after 2.5 minutes, that's just clear resin. Then I have to separate into the right amounts. You put the pigment in each mixing cup, stir it in. By then, I'm at the 6-7 minute mark usually. And like you said, there's roughly 12 minutes working time. If you're keeping like a laser thermometer handy, you take your temperatures as you go, and you might have 90 seconds downtime before it's about time. If you're casting at room temperature, you might have 90 seconds of take a deep breath, plan out your next move, get your molds set up, and then you've got another 2 to 3 minutes of pouring into the molds, swirling if you're going to swirl, putting the molds in the pressure pot, getting the lid on the pressure pot, getting it sealed and pressurized, all in that tiny window of time. And
yeah, I don't know how you do 12. Like I can do 6. I can do 6, and I feel okay doing 6. But if I would try to do 12, it'd just be a failure for me. For sure.
See, for me, it's easier to do 12 than 6 or 4 or a smaller number. I do much better with larger volumes of resin. It's a lot easier for me to control the amount being poured out. And sometimes I do batches of 24. Now I do have a helper who's helping me mix all the A and B together. And then I can do all the pigmenting and things like that, and I'll do all the pouring in the molds.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just one of those time experience and things like that. And it's my ability to stay consistent to the recipes, whether it's primary manipulation or Bohemian Twilight, whatever it is. If I'm making this material to sell to other makers, large and small, it's got to be consistent from the first batch to the last batch. And I think that's where my skill set really plays out.
Yeah, because I can honestly say my attempts at making the same thing over and over again are remotely, like quite a bit different. Either too darker,
it's not easy.
As much transparency. Probably doesn't help that I don't write anything down.
So not only do I write everything down, like I have stacks of note cards. I keep on my casting desk at all times. Pencils, pens, you name it. It's all just sitting there. That way I can, if I get an idea while I'm mixing something else, I'll jot a couple notes down or take notation of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But because I do work with these larger companies that they're ordering anywhere from 200 to 2,000 rods of material, of the same material, when I go to make their samples, I am recording myself. I have a little boom with has a little cell phone attachment, and I have a steel shelf above my casting table. So I have that magnetized to the base of that shelf, and so I basically have a top-down camera, and I record and dictate what I'm doing as I'm doing it, my thought processes and everything. That way, 6 months later, when they finally approve the samples, because it's got to go down their pipeline,
Yeah.
and then come back to me with the feedback, and if it's a go, I did that 6 months ago. I have the memory of a goldfish. I don't remember what I did exactly. I could look at ratios and proportions written on a card, but that's not enough sometimes. So I'll play back the video.
You could swirl it a certain way as you're pouring it into the molds. There's all sorts of little tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a standard stir stick, just a bent piece of metal. You could do what I call a dirty pour, or kind of a half and half, where you're pouring two different colors together, gently mixing, and then pouring that in the mold with something else that'll later get swirled even further. Right. There's so many levels of, color manipulation that you can do, and it's a lot of fun.
Makes me want to go do some casting right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a fair amount of information about casting. How about pens? Because I thought for you pens came first, but now knowing that they came second, you sell a lot of pens now too. So
I do a healthy amount throughout the year during pen show season. And whenever I do have the ability to have some on my website, they don't last very long, typically. Plus, I have a long commission list. So yeah, I stay very busy on the material side and the pen side of things. Sometimes one takes over the other for a couple months, but like right now, during the holiday season, there aren't any pen shows, and all of the large companies I work with are putting in their blank orders for the start of 2025. So right now I've been heavy on the resin side of things, but the pen show season starts for me in February. So I've got to get the ball rolling on making a bunch of pens, because once the show season starts, I think I have a show every 3.5 weeks between February and May. And depending on how things work out in May, it could stay the same, or I might get a month off.
Wow.
Because I'm trying to go to the Netherlands for the Dutch pen show. And it's one of those, if it works out, then I'll have a show every 3.5, 4 weeks. Now, February through the end of August.
That's crazy. Because I think I'm doing May is Montreal. Then my next show is DC, which is August. San Francisco. Then Toronto. Hopefully London, and then I am going to the first ever Singapore show being put on by
Oh, really?
So yeah, my wife and I are gonna do it as part of a trip. We've always wanted to kind of do the Southeast Asia, like Vietnam and Thailand. So we're gonna do the Singapore show and then pop over and do a tour. So that'll be a bit of a work vacation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Pens, you got some to show us? You've got a current
do.
model lineup?
I do. Let me swap camera angles for you.
All right.
Here we go. So I currently have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 models. The only one I don't have a representative of is my Georgetown model. But we'll start off with the Charleston model, which is by far my most popular. It's yeah, it's designated just with the conical lens, gentle tapers. This one is of a new material I have yet to name, but it's really cool with a really dark purple, a deep teal, and a super bright pink.
I like that. Add it to my list, please.
Well, yeah, and this one's in a matte finish, which you and I use the same method of tumble sanding, or using a tumbler after sanding. That's what gives me this. Then we have my
Broke up a little bit there.
Aiken model.
Oh, there we go.
All right, let me slow it down, get it back in line. All right, how's that?
Yep, good.
All right. And now the Aiken model is just your traditional cigar shape, nice gentle tapers. And this is a extra of a commission material, just a solid gray, solid black, and solid yellow.
I like it.
And then one notable characteristic of the Aiken model is the front section, how this has that step at the very front instead of a pinch. So. And then probably my next most popular material, or I'm sorry, model is the Charlotte. Let's see, let's get this in. So the Charlotte is the one model that always comes with a clip. And then it also has a finial medallion that I engrave with either my logo or something special if it's a special edition pin. And this is my Cliffside Sunset material.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. And then, traditional pinch front section. And it does post. So this one's been very popular over the last couple years.
It's a very classic shape with the clip.
Yeah. And then these little guys are always fun at shows. These do better in person than online. Yeah. My Asheville model. And it's just because a lot of people need to get a feel for these short posting threads. Because it does take a little practice to be able to cap it on the back consistently. Shape-wise, it's identical to the Charleston, just short, and it only takes you can either use a cartridge or eyedropper the whole thing.
So lengthwise, it's when you've posted it's probably the size of a normal pen, right?
Exactly, yeah. When it's posted in the hand, it's size-wise. Actually, I can do a size comparison with the Charleston. So size-wise, pretty much longer, identical.
But probably very cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It feels. I have fairly large hands, and it feels really good. Yeah, these are very popular at shows. And then this one is a model I've had for a while, but it was always low on the totem pole as far as getting made. And this is my Raleigh model. Very similar to the Charlotte, only this one has the threads at the base for posting.
Ah, okay, so it'll be even longer as a posted pen.
Right. So this is one that might get made more by request than, say, have a table full at a show. Because it is a little bit longer, a little bit larger.
Yeah, it's
in the hand.
I think you probably have one of my Parnell models. It was the first one I made, and I haven't made it in a few years. It was a giant long pen, but the person it's named after, he was, 6'4" and had huge hands, so it fit him perfectly. I will be making those again, but it'll be,
Yeah.
it's very long pen, especially posted. So
Yeah, I mean, this one in the hand, unposted,
it's nice.
it's nice.
Yeah,
It's not cumbersome. And with the cap on it, it's still not cumbersome at all.
yeah,
This doesn't have a nib in it to show the full length, but it would actually balance out a lot better with a converter full of ink and the nib in the front.
yeah.
But I always get at shows, people say, well, your pens don't have clips or your pen doesn't post. So this one takes care of both.
I know the feeling. I had a guy walk up to my table, I think it was in Toronto, say, "You're only converter and you don't have clips and they don't post. I'm moving on." I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, people, and not everybody has that preference. And it's becoming more and more common to have pens without clips. So it's not as big of a ordeal as it used to be. People's tastes change.
Yeah, that's what
But this one, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say. That's why I haven't, gone back to my two first models, which were clips. Was the demand wasn't there. But seems to be a shift back towards some of those more traditional shapes. So I'm gonna make some this year and bring them to the shows to see how they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't sell what you don't have. And the more you can, I always tell makers, who are getting into shows for the first time, make as much as you can and as big of a variety as you feel comfortable with. Because even if you don't have the perfect pen for them at that moment, they can at least see that you're capable of making it.
Yeah.
And then you can handle a commission, or, they'll know to come back to your table in the next show, things like that.
Or they'll know what model to order online. I think that was the number one feedback from me at the last couple shows, where people came up and said, I just, you've got all the models here that you have. Can I just try each one of them? So that
Yeah.
I know when you do your releases which model I like. So when you get the right model and material combination, they'll actually buy. Where sometimes they're like, oh, I don't know, is the 14 the right size, the 13? So being at
Right.
the show and just, it's as much a marketing as a sales thing for me now.
Oh, absolutely. And, this last model, the Convert, is kind of a culmination of all of these things because, one, it's my thinnest model. So diameter wise, it's overall 2 to 3 millimeters less than all my other models. But this is also, it's called a Convert for a reason because it starts off as a rollerball using a Pilot G2 refill, but the nose cone is removable and a size 6 Jolo nib can go into the exact same front section.
Wow.
And then you use a cartridge and it'll convert into a fountain pen. And, the main reason for creating this model is at shows, you always have those groups of friends or husband and wife that will, one, there's always an outlier in the group that is just there to be hanging out with their friends or their significant other, and they're not into fountain pens. They're like, I don't get what this is all about, but they love it, so I'm here for them. Well, I wanted something that they can get into. So that's why I have this model in it. I started showcasing it last year or this year in 2024, and it's only growing in popularity with fountain pen and non-fountain pen users. And it's kind of a gateway pen. You can get it,
Yeah.
use it as a rollerball, and when you feel like you want to get into the fountain pen side of things, you don't have to go out and buy anything extra. All the pieces come with it, and you can start enjoying a fountain pen with your friends, and then slowly, you know, move up in your tastes and collection. So it's a
Awesome. That's an awesome material too, by the way.
thank you. This is actually a material that I started making probably in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of my new materials that are being shown today are actually remakes of materials that I first started making when I got into this. But yeah, it has the deep red, turquoise, and then little ribbons of gold inside of the turquoise.
It's very nice.
Thank you. And then because we were talking about primary manipulation, this is something that can be expected to be seen coming in 2025 is primary manipulation number 5. So this is a brand new version of the material, all the same colors of primary number 1, only instead of that bright white, we're substituting the super, 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 super sparkly silver.
I put myself on so you could see the drool running down.
Yeah, this a lot of people are that I've teased showing this. They're like, yes, I want all of it, please.
Absolutely.
So you still get the translucency throughout. Like you can, like that little flash of silver there. That's the converter inside the pen.
So you get the but not so translucent that you got to polish the inside, right?
Yeah, no. It's not that translucent. You can see a little bit up here in the cap, but no, you can get away without doing it, and it's just
Very nice. It's very nice.
Thank you.
And so that material will be available to the public eventually, though, right?
Yeah, eventually, starting, I want to say March or April 2025.
Excellent.
It'll be, that one will become public domain, we'll call it.
Well, I have a standing order for stuff
I do.
like that, so
Oh yeah.
just make it, ship it, and send me a bill.
It'll be ready for you by the time you get back from your vacation.
That's perfect because I'll need to make a lot of pens because I kind of didn't make many before I leave, so I think I'll be doing a lot of making when I get back, which is good and bad. The beauty of this year going away is the move is over. Last year I moved and then left, and my office wasn't set up. It was just boxes. And so when I came back, it was just a nightmare. I had shut down the website, no Instagram. It took me 6 months to build my numbers back up on Instagram and stuff. So this year, I'm not shutting down the site at all. I have somebody that's going to be here and can ship and everything. I'll leave the website up. So everything is going to go really, really well, I hope. So, Jonathan, I appreciate your time. Where can people find you?
So my website is carolinapencompany.com, as well as Carolina Pen Company on Instagram.
So this is where also Brooks Blanks is with all sold out.
Yeah, I know I've been bad this year about restocking the blank side of things, but it's literally been inundated with the large corporate orders. I've added new accounts with new manufacturers, and they order so much. It's just one of those, it takes up so much time.
Oh, just so you know, this pen is so beautiful. And I saw the pen that you did for the Secret Santa, and why I couldn't be the one to get drawn as your name, I don't know, but hey.
Hey, I got you as my Secret Santa, though.
Yeah, that's good. You got the first ever rose engine pen, so yeah. But that
I like it.
I appreciate what you do for the maker community, how good you've been to me personally in the community, and what your
Yeah.
materials have done for my business. So yeah, I didn't mind
Yeah.
going the extra mile and getting you the first ever one. I have the second one somewhere.
I appreciate it.
I put a needlepoint in mine.
I was going to ask you with the nib on mine. Is it just your? I think it's a medium. Is it a stock medium?
Yeah, I think it's just a stock medium nib.
Okay. And who did the engraving on the nib? Did you do that yourself, or did you have that done outside?
Oh no, it's the logoed nib, so it was Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting my box from him pre-tuned now,
Okay.
just to save time, and I had him engrave those ones. I don't think I had this last batch. I'm going to do myself because I finally
Okay.
got the right plug put in my office. Been here like a year and a half, but I didn't have the 220 plug for my laser engraver. But I've got that
Gotcha.
all set up now, and the great thing about my new laser, or well, my old laser engraver, is that Lightburn has the right converter to run it.
Oh,
So I
nice.
don't have to go back and try and learn that old clunky software. Lightburn works. And eventually
See, I'm still on the clunky crap, the
yeah,
EasyCAD.
EasyCAD 2, you can download Lightburn.
Yeah.
It'll work right away.
Okay.
It has an
I'll have
EasyCAD
to.
2 converter, and Lightburn's cheap. So
Okay.
realistically, it's pretty cheap. Now you have to buy the Pro version to use with Galvos, so it's a little more money, but it'll work. And you can download the trial to make sure it works. Now my
Yeah.
good machine that I have at home is EasyCAD 3, and they do not have a converter for that yet. They think it'll come
Ooh.
out next year. So then at least I'll be on the same
Okay.
software. So one's the weak one that's just for engraving nibs, and the one at home is the 60 for doing the deep engraving and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
which is great. All right, Jonathan, I appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you at some shows. You've got a lot of shows
Yeah,
coming up, so
I do. Yeah, and I'm trying to add more if I can.
thank goodness for that CNC these days, I'm betting.
Oh, you're not. Yeah, no, that thing has been the best headache I've ever had.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm about to run out the door right now and go finish my job before I leave on vacation, or else that customer's going to be pretty upset with me. So,
Yeah. Oh, thank you for having me on, Sean. I really appreciate it.
great. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right, take care.
Bye.